All right, guys, welcome into another episode of Talk to Me. As always, I'm Joshua Toomey, and today I'm joined with Metal Injection head editor Greg Kennelty. Greg, how you doing today, man?
Hey man, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. Doing well. I figured I'd have you on today because there's been so much talk about bands with new singers coming out, and then there's like singers with whole new bands coming together. So just kind of talk about. I wanted to talk about the if it's okay for a band to replace a singer, and then obviously on the flip side for a singer to replace the entire band.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, I guess long story short, yes. It kind of depends on how you do it, right? Like I think there have been plenty of bands that have replaced singers and it's gone extremely well. I mean, two that immediately come to mind that are still huge is Anthrax and Alice in Chains. Probably more so Alice in Chains. I mean, I guess if you really want to get technical about it, but yeah, Alice in Chains, they did it tastefully. They came back with a whole new sound, a whole new band. I mean, it helped that Jerry Cantrell, sang and was also kind of the voice of that band. So that definitely smoothed the transition. But I mean, even Anthrax too, they had the John Bush era, which I am a big proponent of and will defend every single time. So, long story, yeah, but it also depends on the circumstances too. Because I know there are a few bands that you wanted to talk about that maybe didn't do a good job, but
A couple things here. Obviously, there's a bunch going on right now with the Snot news that came out, with the new Linkin Park
yes.
stuff. Obviously with the death, there's really nothing you can do there. But then there's also that weird phenomenon of like a Skid Row, where Skid Row's out there and Sebastian Bach's out there, and they're both singing the same catalog, but it's like, why can't you just guys get back together? Obviously, I know that's a whole mess there,
Yeah,
but
I
it
was gonna
is
say
weird
that's
when there's a member, when there's the singers out there doing the catalog and the band is out there doing the catalog. It's kind of a bit strange phenomenon there too.
Oh yeah, no, I mean that's always interesting to see. I mean, Sepultura's kind of dealing with that, but not really because Sepultura is ending right now. So Max Cavalera really only has 2 years left of having to contend with Sepultura before he could just go out there and just do all that material. And I mean, he'll be the only game in town. That's fine. But yeah, as far as yeah, like a Skid Row situation, I guess that just kind of depends on who you're a bigger fan of. Like if you like the Sebastian Bach stuff, then you're gonna go see him. And if you just kind of want to see, I don't even who the hell's even in Skid Row. Geez, they had Lizzie Hale for like a hot minute there because Eric
Yeah,
quit.
no, they
And I
haven't
can't.
they haven't announced the newest singer yet.
Oh, they haven't.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah. But I mean, of the core guys, I mean, you got Scotty, you got Rachel, and you've got Snake, kind of all, the main dudes from back in the day. So it's kind of the deal. And we'll talk about Snot with the Snot reunion. It's the four original dudes, and then obviously they're gonna have to replace Lynn. So you do get that core band together. But I'm such a proponent on the singer, where it's like a lot of bands you can't just replace the singer. It's like the singer is the band. And so I think a lot of times I might veer towards like the solo guy
Yeah.
replacing everybody else versus everybody else replacing a singer.
It like Snot, Alice in Chains. I'm trying to think of who else it's come back. Linkin Park. You're like, I don't know. It's a weird situation because on one hand, it's like, oh well, it's not the original band because they don't have Lynn Straight or they don't have whoever. They don't have Chester Bennington. Like, all right, and yeah, I mean, I get that, but we're not necromancers. We can't bring those people back from the dead. And God, please don't let them go out with an AI replica of any. I don't even want it. Like, just please, just don't let that happen. Like, music's over if that happens. We're done. But like stuff like that. It's strange because again, you can't bring these people back. But on the flip side, this was their livelihood. This is
Right.
part of Mikey Dolling's identity as a musician. He was in Snot. He was one of the Snot guys. It's the same thing with Mike Shinoda. It's the same thing with Jerry Cantrell. Like, I don't know. So you want to fault them for coming back with a new singer, but on the other hand, like these guys deserve to go out and play the music that they wrote as well. So it's tough. And again, a lot of bands do it pretty well. So as far as the Snot thing goes, I mean, I'm really curious because like you said, it's all the Snot dudes just with mystery vocalists. And I mean, I don't know who's going to talk shit on Get Some, right? Like it's a great record. It
Right.
is such a shame that band got cut down that quickly. So yeah, especially in the instance of Snot, I'm definitely very excited to see what they do and who they get. As far as Linkin Park goes, I don't know. Fine, I guess it's the fans seem to be into it. I'm sure they're going to do fine. I'm sure they're going to sell plenty of tickets. I mean, they just announced a 2025 world tour, and like it is a legitimately like that's a world tour. That is the whole freaking world. Good for them. There's clearly a demand for it, or else they wouldn't have booked a world tour. So, is it good? It's different. I don't know. I don't know. It's fine. I'm not going to shit on it because again, a lot of people seem to really like it. I've gotten through the record a few times, and I don't particularly love it, but again, a lot of fans are really into it, so cool. I feel the same way about Linkin Park that I do with Pantera almost, where it's like, listen, this is not on paper the band that put out the classic records. However, a lot of people didn't get to see them. A lot of people, maybe still want to see them, or they just enjoy this new lineup. Cool. Go. Have fun. Enjoy. Enjoy the new stuff. Not with Pantera, at least not yet. But go see these bands. Go, enjoy, grab a beer, hang out with your friends, whatever. It's a good time. You don't have to love it. I think the stance that I always took with a lot of that too was like, nobody's coming to your house to take your records. Nobody's coming to your house to delete your library. Like if Pantera goes out there with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante, or Linkin Park goes out there with Emily Armstrong and Colin and whoever else they have now, okay, that's fine. I have my Linkin Park records and stuff over here and in the other room and all that stuff, and I can listen to it whenever I want. Nobody's coming to my house and saying like, hey, Linkin Park reunited, give me your records. Like, it's not like that, man. Like I can still enjoy that old stuff and nobody can take that from me, and that's fine. I don't have to enjoy the new stuff. So yeah, it's complicated with replacing singers.
Yeah, the thing with I mean the Pantera thing's really not in this realm, but I get what you're saying with
Yeah.
new members kind of coming around. But when I saw that show, it was one of the first Pantera shows back. We drove up to Indianapolis. We got there a little early. Everyone in the parking lot was, tailgating like it was a football game. I heard people talking about driving from Cleveland and some people from St. Louis, and like everybody was so pumped there. It was like, 18, 20,000 people at this show. And, I'm a huge Pantera fan. I love Pantera. So getting to see those songs again. I mean, I saw Pantera 8, 9 times back in the 90s.
Right.
So I definitely don't fall into the category of it. I didn't get to see them the first go around, but my wife can attest to, like, as soon as Pantera came out, like I was just like tears in my eyes. Like, I can't believe I'm seeing this every, because I just never thought you would,
man. Yeah.
And it was funny because I don't like to look at setlist.com. I don't want to know the set list unless it's something I'm going to on like a Tuesday night and I want to see, like, are they going to play my song I want to hear? When are they going to play it and when can I leave? But I was like, I don't want to know the set list. I don't want to know anything. There was a guy in the row ahead of me, kept turning around and showing me his phone. I never talked to him. I was like, I don't want to see your phone, dude. Please stop. But
dude, guess what they're playing next? I'm here now. I'll see.
I do not want to see your phone. But yeah, so the Pantera stuff, I've seen it I think 3 times since it's been back. Since this version of Pantera has been back around, and I've had a blast every time. I'm still on the fence if I want to hear quote unquote new Pantera, but
yeah,
I will go see it any chance I get. With the new Linkin Park, I look at the new Linkin Park like I kind of looked at that Kerry King solo album. Was when I heard the Kerry King solo stuff, all I listened for was if Mark could do the Tom voice. And so when they go play live and they play Slayer songs, is it going to sound okay? So with the Linkin Park album, I listened to it all the way through. I think she's going to be fine. She does a good job. She's actually got some really cool screams on the album. I enjoyed that a lot, but really it could have been the first maybe 4 songs. I think we could have just had an EP of just to kind of show her off a little bit, because nobody needs the second half of that album. Like there's not a lot on there.
That is so funny that you said that, because I was giving it a listen today because we had talked about this and we said, hey, we're going to talk about the new Linkin Park record. And I was like, all right, let me refamiliarize with myself with this, because I listened to it last week. I didn't love it. And I had the same thought. I got halfway through and I was like, this loses steam hard.
It was real fast.
This loses, because like the first half is kind of like them trying to capture like not necessarily the hybrid theory stuff, but like it kind of feels like an extension of Meteora. And it's like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
like cool, sure. Maybe leaning a little too hard on the nostalgia, but like I get it. This is not bad. The second half is like, hey, it kind of feels like you tried to write 3 different albums, didn't really agree on it, and then just took like one from each one and kind of just stapled them all together. You're like, it's a comeback record. And it's like, I mean, technically, yes, but I don't know. Yeah, because I think my problem with the record is like it feels like they tried to write a greatest hits from the perspective of having a new singer with new material. So they have like those Meteora moments. They have like those Minutes to Midnight moments. But it never feels like it comes together as a record. Like you said, like you get to the end and you're like, okay, but that just felt like songs. Like that just felt like they like they were in a studio and they came up with whatever song it was and they did it. What's the I can't think. There's one song, I think it's right toward the middle. I can just look this up real fast.
Yeah.
Oh man, because it was really confusing. I think it was Casualty or Overflow, and that killed the momentum, and that record just straight up never recovered from it.
It's kind of got a weird punky vibe to it. I think I know what you're talking. I think it's Casualty. I was driving in the car and it was a good car listen. I had a little bit of a drive, so I was driving, listening to it. And let me start off by saying, not a huge Linkin Park fan. They're cool, but they're not they've never been one of my favorites. So I was like, all right, I was into it. And then it just hit this song and I was just like, I'm out. And then every song after that, it never brought me back in. It was just still like more, just like you said, just all over the place, all over the map. It was very, very bizarre.
It felt really strange because like the first half is very coherent. I mean, that first single when that came out, my first thought was like, wow, okay, like, yeah, man, here we go. Like, this is gonna be really good. And I mean, the singles were good, but it just the record didn't come together. Because I mean, if they came back and said, hey, listen, we're working on a full length, we want to get out there, we want to play more, we want to like gel together as a band, we want to kind of see what does and doesn't work. And then, then we'll go and we'll do a full length. We'll really nail down what it is that we're trying to do in 2025, 2026, whatever. But yeah, it just felt like they felt that they needed to put out a full length album right up top. And
which makes no sense.
I don't know. It just put out like 4 songs and be like, hey, listen, you guys like Meteora. You guys like Hybrid Theory. we're going to kind of just lean into that for these ones. Get back on our feet, and then, move forward. I mean, like, that's kind of, I suspect My Chemical Romance was sort of doing the same thing, because they had that one single, like, 2 years ago or something, and that was super weird and out there. It was like, okay, what the hell is this? But, like, they didn't just come out and be like, 13 songs, 6 of them are good, go!
Right.
we don't need this.
Another thing with the Linkin Park coming back together thing, too, is the fact that, it's not the drummer. And then guitar player is like on the studio stuff, but he's not going to do the touring. So really, this version of Linkin Park is he's like Mr. Hahn, the bass player, and Shinoda. It's just like, all right, like 3 out of the 6 dudes are going to be on stage that you're going to go see.
That was the one weird thing I thought about the announcement is they came back and they're like, listen, it's everyone except, obviously Chester. And Colin Britton's going to be playing drums. And it's like, all right, fine. That's, 4 out of 6 is not bad. And then, they started announcing tour dates and all of a sudden they're like, by the way, Brad Delson isn't touring with us. And it's like, okay, why didn't you just say that up front then? Like that just felt, I don't want to call it underhanded because that's not fair. But it felt strange to kind of sell it as like, hey, it's 4 of the 6 guys. Hey, it's 3 of the 6 guys. And it's like, okay, sure, thanks. Like, why wasn't, unless that conversation took place after the fact, who knows? But just the rollout was just a little shaky.
Yeah, and then it kind of comes back with I got to do this for my mental health. I'll be behind the scenes and stuff. And you're like, it seems like some buzzword stuff for me there.
Don't worry. When they announce album number 2, they'll be like, Brad Delson decided to step down because he wanted to spend more time with his family. And you're like, yep. I mean, I kind of figured that was coming. So
it's weird too. Between albums is what 8-10 years between this album and the last Linkin Park album. So you're thinking like, even if they weren't thinking we're going to write and record a new Linkin Park album ever again, he would still write some riffs occasionally and be like, this sounds like an old Linkin Park riff. I'm gonna stash this one aside for a little while. And this new album to me sounds rushed. Like it just sounds like, oh God, we got a new singer. We got to do an album.
Yep.
Let's just you know, it
We
seems like
booked
they
the
should
dates,
have
go.
right.
Oh no.
And then they're not even messing around with, you know, oh, let's announce the North American tour and then the European tour and then the Asian tour, you know, the Asia tour or whatever.
Yep.
It's just like, here's 2025. We're going everywhere and we'll see you soon. It's crazy the amount of dates they're doing.
And I think part of it too is the mix really does that album no favors whatsoever, because
True.
it's very vocals up front and like just everything else in the background, and just it highlights things very strangely. I mean, if you go back and you listen to like Hybrid Theory and Meteora, like those are some really fucking hefty mixes, man. Like, there's a lot going on, but like everything has its place. You could pick out like, all right, cool, there's the giant, you know, down-tuned whatever guitar playing diamonds all throughout. You know, there's the turntables that like you could pick out a lot of different things. This just felt like it was just like, hey, do you guys like vocals? Because here they are. And it's like, I mean, all right. But I don't know. It just there was enough wrong with it that I couldn't fall in love with it, which sucks. Because I mean, you know, I grew up in the late 90s and early 2000s. Like I was in high school in 2004. So, you know, Linkin Park was a very big deal. And looking back, even at the later albums that, you know, were a little bit controversial for fans, like I thought they were pretty good. Like those had a lot of bangers on them. Like they were still well done. And yeah, like you said, this just felt rushed. It just, the mix was weird. It didn't gel. Something, dude, the magic didn't happen. And that sucks.
It's funny you say that about Linkin Park, and I've had this conversation with a few people, and that's where our age difference kind of comes in, because you know I was not in high school in 2004. I was 25. Right. But you know, by the time Linkin Park came out, like that was the tail end of new metal to me. Like it was like, you know, in '94 we got into Korn and Deftones and Limp Bizkit and everything else, you know, Spine Shank to Fear Factory, all that stuff. Yep. And then at the end, here comes this band Linkin Park, and you know, all the rumors of it kind of being a boy band kind of put together, all that other nonsense. There was so much behind the scenes with those guys, and it did feel very manufactured. You know, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, but even at the time, I was like, I almost wanted to be like, guys, you're too late to the party, you know, like, and then it just kind of goes to show like how, you know, kind of out of the loop I was on that one, but I was wrong on Linkin Park.
No, I mean, they sort of dropped the new metal thing by then, because I think Hybrid Theory and Meteor were like early. I mean, that was about them, but I mean, yeah, like 2004 is also the rise of like, do you guys like the Black Dahlia murder and like, you know, right, like As I Lay Dying and like all like the rise of metalcore. I mean, good Lord. I remember when Killswitch and Cage released The End of Heartache, I was like, aha, okay, that's what I like.
Yeah, that was 100% game changer record. Like that was
crazy.
It was like that album and like Lamb of God, Ashes of the Wake came out around that time, and just Unearth, The Oncoming Storm, all that stuff kind of came in, and I was like, oh, that's what we're doing now. Like, all right, here we go.
Gotcha. We're all just kind of just taking a page from like At the Gates' book. Neat. Mm-hmm. Let's go.
But it was funny because at the time, I remember a friend of mine showing me The Oncoming Storm, you know, because as a kid, I was listening to Megadeth, Metallica, and all that stuff. And then 94 hits, Korn, and all that shit comes out. So like the guitar solo goes away. And then all of a sudden this stuff from New England starts coming our way. And I was like, oh, we have to get good at our instruments again.
Shit, we have to learn sweep picking. Damn it. All right, here we go.
But
no, the shift was hard, man. I mean yeah, like, because I mean, again, like I grew up at the tail end of it, so like, yeah, like just starting to get into like, oh, like buying Static X CDs and Korn and all that stuff, and then all of a sudden, yeah, like the new, what was it called, the new wave of American heavy metal, like that's like, I guess what was coined at the time, and yeah, like you're just starting to get into like, oh, cool, like I'm getting the hang of new metal, and then bam, yeah, like just, you know, all that shit, and it was incredible, but.
Yeah, and actually, Static X is one band we haven't talked about the way that they came back with a dead skin mask look for on old Etzel up there, kind of trying to look like Wayne. That's a bizarre way to come back too.
It's so he sounds good.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
I'm not gonna take that away from him because like cool, like the guy sounds great. The guy, I mean, we all know it's Edsel Dope. I mean, he'll never admit it, but so we whatever. But it's one of those things where like, yeah, I don't know. It part of me thinks it would have been better to just have a singer just go out there and just be a singer and just be like, hey, this is Static. But I mean, Wayne Static was Static X as far as the images go. I mean, like
Mhm.
Cult of Static was the last Static X record, I think. And I mean, it was Wayne. It was Wayne with the
Yeah.
freaking hair, and he was facing out toward the crowd and the whole nine. And like that one's tougher to swallow because it wasn't it wasn't like a situation like so many of the bands that we talked about where it's like this is a collective of guys. Because I mean, Static X, was a collective of guys, but I mean, Wayne Static was very much the front of that band. Like he was the image, and yeah, I don't know if putting weird dead corpse version of your old frontman on stage was the move. Less so when they were like, he's a robot now, and I'm like, that's kind of cool. It's still weird, but at least he's not like dead looking. So cool, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, that one was. I don't know. That one just kind of felt a little weird. I remember when that news broke, and I had to read the email twice. It's like Static X is coming back, and I'm like, how? What is happening right now?
We found a bunch of old tapes, and we're gonna put them out now.
Yep, and they're coming to your ears, and I'm like, I mean, whatever. But yeah, no, the dead skin mask bit was just, I don't know, one of the stranger choices.
Yeah, it was definitely a choice.
Oh
But yeah,
yeah,
I love Etzel. I love Etzel. Got to tour with those guys back in the day, so love Etzel
he
Dope.
sounds great. I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, he sounds good. Like I'm definitely not going to sit here and be like, and he sucks. Like he doesn't suck. He definitely does not suck. He
right.
nails that sound. Just the presentation's just, I don't know.
So on the flip side of everything, we've got obviously replacing a singer, but then you've also got As They Lay Dying, as a as Tim Lambesis and all new guys, or even who am I thinking of? Craig Owens with Drugs. It's like him, but then it's a whole new
Oh yeah,
band. And then and it's funny. Someone was asking because Chiodos is going to do some shows, and they're like, "Well, who's in
yep,
Chiodos?" Is it? And I was like,
right.
"Well, it's kind of like you ever seen that video of that girl? It's like, hey, I need to speak to the manager, and the girl does a twirl and she stands back up or
It's like,
whatever
hi,
behind the counter." And then I was like, "That's just the band Drugs." It's like, "Oh, we're Chiodos now." They just they just kind of
it's
pop up
just
behind a
double
screen,
set.
Yeah, basically. So it's kind of honestly all this stuff boils down to being able to put the band name on the tour poster or on the marquee because Joe Public 99% of the time does not give a shit if the original bass player is on stage or not. They're
Yep.
just like, I want to go see As They Lay Dying play As They Lay Dying songs, and I want to go home. Like I don't care about anything else. I just want to see the band that I loved in high school. Nostalgia will be the death of all of us.
I mean, that's it though. I mean, yeah, there's really no rebuttal to that, right? Like people, we're on what As I Lay Dying version 3 now, and people are still gonna go see it. They're still gonna
Yeah.
go. They're still gonna sing along to all the songs they love, and that's that. And yeah, like, am I gonna go? Nah, probably not. I mean, I guess I'm a little bit more of a purist in that way, but people, yeah, exactly. Like if you see like As I Lay Dying is coming around, or you see Static X is coming around, or you see, yeah, like Chiodos is coming around, like you're not you 99% of people are not going to pick up the phone and be like, hang on, let me just look on Wikipedia here real quick. Like they don't give a shit. Yeah, like so As I Lay Dying is a special case, but I mean, I don't know. That guy, he weathered trying to kill his wife, and he
Yeah.
came back and he did a bunch of tours, and he's put out the second record, and I don't know if that man is sinkable, honestly. like I don't know if this controversy is going to be the one that does him in or not. But I mean, I guess time will tell, and people, because they're kind of a weird case where, like, yeah, like you said, like if you're going to see whatever band and they, replace the whole band around the singer and all that stuff, you're still probably gonna go see it because you know the name and you like the songs and everything. As I Lay Dying is gonna be a weird one to see. Like, first of all, I want to see who he's gonna get, because there is certainly a reputation and a stench floating around now, not only because of As I Lay Dying, but what was it? Oh my god, I can't think of his name. Austrian Death Machine drummer guy. He quit quit that band over the weekend, and his statement was very much the same as everyone in As I Lay Dying. So I don't know. Does he just get a bunch of unknown kids? Does he just find another band that's willing to do it? Who knows? But yeah, I mean, like you said, somebody sees like, hey, As I Lay Dying is coming around with X, Y, and Z band, they're probably gonna go. And they're gonna hear 96 hours, and they're gonna hear Through the Darkest Nights, and they're gonna have a good old time, and that'll just be that.
And the thing too is people are always like, well, why don't they just call it something else? Like, why didn't Mike Shinoda call this something else? And you're like, because they're not going to sell out arenas and stadiums as Mike Shinoda and the and the Bop Bops or anything like that. They have to be Linkin Park, or this has to be As They Lay Dying. Because even with through all of this controversy with every single band member leaving the band, I mean, they were just announced for what? Rockville or something like that. Like, they're As They Lay Dying is on festivals next year. You will see As They Lay Dying at your DWP festivals next year.
I mean, and they're a logo band on the ad mat too. They weren't just like little white text. Like, they had their logo on there. So yeah, they're not going away. It's not going to happen. But yeah, like you said too. I mean, look at Kerry King, right? I'm not shitting on Kerry King. I'm not shitting on his solo career at all. That's not what this is. But like, if he went out as Slayer, Lamb of God and Mastodon would have been supporting Slayer. But instead, Kerry King goes out as Kerry King, and he's opening with Malevolence. So yeah, like, it's a hard time. I realize that's kind of a weird example because it's a different band. But yeah, exactly. Like, if Linkin Park went out as whatever, if they went out even as Zero, for instance, right? Most of the Linkin Park fans don't know, like, oh, they used to be called Zero, and they changed the name back to Zero because they didn't have Chester Bennington back then. Nobody fucking knows that. Yeah, well, I mean, Zero's going to play PNC Bank Art Center. Maybe.
Honestly, the direct correlation is even what we've been talking about was when Phil Anselmo and the Illegals was playing a set of Pantera. They called it like, what was it? Far Beyond Pantera, something like whatever.
Yeah, it was something like
that. A vulgar display of Pantera is what it was.
That was it, yeah.
They were the first of four opening Slayer, Ministry, Primus, Phil Anselmo. Mm-hmm. He comes back as Pantera playing this same exact set, but adding Rex Brown to the thing. All of a sudden they're headlining the festival.
To the top.
They're co-headlining with Slayer. They're not opening anymore. So it's just I'm just saying that's why you can't call it something else. You have to call it Pantera. You have to call it Linkin Park. You have to call it As They Lay Dying if you want to make any money.
Because if you called Linkin Park, new Linkin Park, like Hybrid Theory, for example, or you wanted to do Phil Anselmo doing, and you called it Far Beyond Pantera, whatever. In my mind, because I would do the same shit. If I was driving by like a venue or whatever, and I saw the marquee and it said like, hey, Hybrid Theory's playing here, or Far Beyond Pantera is playing here, I would instantly assume that was a cover band, and I would not look it up. I would just keep driving and be like, I'm not going to that shit. And then I just keep moving. So yeah, exactly. But then if you see like, hey, Pantera's playing this club, you're like, stop the car. Like, what's going on here? So yeah, like it does come down to branding. And I think people, not that they forget, but maybe don't want to accept. Some people don't, but like, it is a business at the end of the day. Like, somebody owns the As I Lay Dying name. Somebody owns the Pantera name. Somebody owns, all these names. So like, if Tim's going to carry on As I Lay Dying, he's going to do it with, even if it's just him and Superior Drummer 2.0 and whatever guitar programs they have out there. Like, he owns the name. So there you go. It's never, until Tim says As I Lay Dying is over, As I Lay Dying ain't over. And I'm sure it's the same thing with Pantera, but it's probably like, I mean, well, the estates probably own stuff too, so they all had to agree on it. But yeah, like, they keep doing this stuff in like just in perpetuity. I mean, Kiss is never gonna fucking die, so it's it's just stuff like that.
Yeah, it'll all of this will continue to go on, and it's funny when you get a band with a member that has passed away, and they're like, well, They're like, no Chester, no Linkin Park. And I'm like, well, like you said earlier, those other 5 guys in the band still need to make a living, still should be able to play songs that they wrote and songs that they participated in. And in certain situations, it's very unfortunate that the singers aren't with us anymore. But it's not their fault that the singer's not with us anymore, and they should still be able to play those songs live.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like Linkin Park, I mean, Static X, like all those guys deserve to play the songs that they took part in. It's their songs, it's their music, and if they want to get out there and play it in whatever regard, cool, have fun. People will go. I mean, we've seen it how many times now. So cool. At the end of the day, it really comes down to you don't have to go. You don't have to listen to it. But there probably is a lot of people that are going to go and are going to listen to it. So like, is some of it for me? No. But it is for a lot of people. So great. Have fun, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. Now the extreme of everything on this is no original members. So you that now that's when you get into the weird territory of, like, I just had the dudes from Saliva on. And so you've got no original band Saliva out there playing Saliva songs, but then you've also got Josie Scott out there playing like Saliva's Josie Scott or Josie Scott's Saliva. Like he words it differently every time he pops up. But you've got some super crazy, people out there in the marketplace going like, what the hell is this? A Foreigner or a Saliva, things like that.
I mean, even like I don't think Zao has any original members anymore, and I don't think Norma Jean does either. And I don't know, it's weird because like some of those instances, like a Zao or Norma Jean, like still good. It's still like these new records, the new stuff that they're putting out is still very good, but it is weird because it's like that Ship of Theseus type of thing where it's like, well, all the parts have been replaced, so is it the same ship or not? Because like, yes, on paper this is Norma Jean, but like it's like not, it's not Norma Jean. Like it is, but it isn't. Like it's really strange. But again, it comes down to branding, like if Saliva goes out as click click boom, right? Like no one's gonna go see it. It's the same thing with Zao and with Norma Jean, with a lot of those other bands. And I mean, I think what the hell is it? Leonard Skinner's still out there, and I think it's the drummer.
I think there are zero original members in Skinner now.
Yeah.
And but you see, that's the thing, even with Saliva too, because the singer that's currently in Saliva has been in Saliva for 10 years. So like he has a lot invested into the band. And the same with Skinner. Homeboy Van Zant has been in the band since his brother passed away, and they've been touring that version for 40 years. So it's kind of tough to be like, well, actually, technically, this isn't Leonard Skinner anymore. But you're like, I've actually been in the band longer than my brother was in the band, and all that other stuff too. It was funny. They for the longest time, I think they had an agreement where they had to have 3 original members in the band to keep going, and then like the bass player died, and they're like, oh well, I guess we only have to have 2, like, and they just kind of kept going with it and stuff like that. So. And then I think even a version of Skinner guitar player's band Blackfoot, he actually did the whole. He auditioned a bunch of young dudes to make a version of Blackfoot to send out on the road. So like these dudes weren't even alive probably. Like when the original stuff was written, he like just put together like a young band, had them call it Blackfoot, and then sent them out on tour. So. The marketing of all this stuff's crazy, and that's what everyone assumed Kiss would end up doing is new Kiss.
Finding. I honestly I wouldn't put it past Kiss at all, but like you said too, like a lot of these bands that don't have any original members, like the bassist has been in there for 27 years, and it's like I mean Sepultura I don't think has any original members because I don't think oh my god I can't think of his name, Andreas Kisser. I don't think he played on the first records.
No,
and
it would have been
same thing with Napalm Death, which is hilarious when you read like Choosing Death and all those books, and it's like they're talking about the history of Napalm Death, and the first 10 pages is a bunch of dudes you've never even heard of, and then they're finally like, oh, then Shane Embry came in, and you're like, oh shit, all right, that's the guy, I know that guy. So, but a lot of these bands that don't have original members, like they've been
technically
in there for
I don't think there's any original Judas Priest members. Now that I think about it, I think KK was an original. There was like a weird version of Judas Priest prior to Rob joining,
Oh,
but when they had like a
they're
black
another one
drummer.
too.
Yeah.
Well, they have what the hell is it now? There's Judas Priest and then there's KK's Priest,
Yeah.
and I don't. I think it's one of those like weird things where you're catering to a very specific fan at that point, you know? Because
Mhm.
yeah, like you're as a casual fan that just like played Grand Theft Auto as a kid and heard Breaking the Law and you saw Judas Priest playing at PNC Bank Arts Center, you're not going to be like, well, let me check. Oh, KK Downing's on in there. Fuck him. You know, like you don't give a shit. So but then when you see KK's Priest, you're like, just as a casual fan, you'd probably think like, oh, it's like Judas Priest, but like not, I don't know, and then you're not going to go see it. So yeah, it is weird, but I mean, a lot of these guys have been doing it for quite some time. I'm kind of surprised. You're starting to see it with Immortal a little bit because there was Immortal, and then I think everybody but the bassist is still there. I think it's just the bassist or the guitarist. One of those. I can't remember. I think it's the guitarist. I can't remember. Nobody quote me on this. But you know, Abad, who was the longtime guitarist of the band, he's out there and he's just like, fuck it, playing Immortal now. So it's like, okay, but I mean, also Immortal is kind of a weird example because I haven't played a show since 2010, I think. But I don't know, like, because we could sit here and talk about it, but I think a lot of people like. I don't know. These guys still get on festivals. They still play shows. So there's clearly a market for it to some extent, you know?
Yeah, and there is something to like even with the latest, Biohazard shows. Like it's all four original
Mhm.
members, and I'm pumped. I was pumped to see it. Like I was so excited to see all four original members of Biohazard because by the time I got into them, um, that was right when Bobby kind of stepped away and they had like a replacement guitar player
Yeah.
back in like '96, I think, on the Mataleo tour. Is the only time I got to see him back in the day. And then so getting to see all four original dudes on stage meant something to me. I don't know if casual Biohazard fan or guy at show even cares. They just want to hear, punishment and all that nonsense.
Yep.
Um, so even my wife big into certain bands, and I'm assuming she could care less who played drums on, on certain things. As long as
Right.
it could say Incubus on the bill, as long as Brandon Boyd's on stage, she's fine. It doesn't matter who else is in the band, that whole thing.
Yeah, you
So
you and I are the guys sitting there on Wikipedia trying to figure out like, well, actually this guy joined before they're playing this album and the guitarist joined 2 years after. So really, it's just like,
right.
hey man, shut the fuck up. Like just stop.
Yeah. But I mean,
Like
even like
I'm totally that nerd.
with the announcement of Panic at the Disco playing Sick New World, or When We Were Young, or whatever they're playing out there.
Yeah.
It's like someone asked me the other day, like, who else is in Panic at the Disco? And I'm like, I don't care as long as it's Brendan Urie, like we're fine. I'm sure
That's
he'll have
actually a
a
good
good
point.
because
Because
he,
I don't even know who was in that band to begin with. So they could just get out on stage and it'd be like, probably.
well, I was watching a show. I just put on like a random Panic at the Disco show the other day, and I
Yeah.
was watching it, and it did dawn on me. I'm like, who is even in this band? Because well,
Yep.
a part of it was the bass player Nicole is now in Incubus, so I was kind of watching, kind of seeing how she played those songs on the
Oh,
Panic stuff. Um, and so I
that's
was, I was
cool.
watching that, and then I actually looked at I did the whole thing. Went to Wikipedia, and I'm like, all right, well, this guy's been in the band since 2010, and this guy's been in the band since that, and and I think Nicole was in the band towards the end of the band, right before she joined
Mhm.
Incubus. So my wife asked me, she's like, is Nicole going to play with Panic at the Disco on this one? I was like, honestly, no idea. But but that's one of those deals where as long as you got Brandon Urie, you're fine.
That's actually the perfect example because yeah, because I am that guy with Panic at the Disco that other people would probably be with a lot of other metal bands. It's like I see Panic at the Disco and I'm like, neat. I have no idea who the hell's in that band. Like all of them could walk past me in the street tomorrow, and I would just walk right past them and have no idea. So yeah, like I am that guy with those bands, and to me is like I go see them. I don't like whatever, dude. It's probably fun, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that yeah, you know what, you nailed it exactly. Yeah, because
And I,
I'm on the other side of it now.
and I was watching, what was it, Deftones at Lollapalooza or something. There was a recent Deftones show where Steph wasn't playing. And I looked at I was talking to my wife again, and I was like, the only two people on stage right now that were on the first album are Chino and Abe. You know, because obviously
Oh yeah,
Frank wasn't in the band on the first album, and then they've got the guitar player, bass player, fill-in guys over there, kind of hanging
yeah.
out, and then you got the other guy that was filling in for Steph on that show. And I was just like, this isn't that Deftones. I think are one band that you can't replace Chino. You can replace probably
Nope.
anybody else in that band, and you probably get away
Nope.
with it. Like, I mean, they did. I mean, they played multiple shows without Steph. Obviously Cheese passed away, and even um, was the bass player after him, Sergio, obviously
Oh
gone.
yeah.
He was a mainstay for a long time, but you got a couple of proficient dudes playing in the band. That's fine, but yeah, I think a couple of those bands, maybe like a Tool and Deftones. There are a few bands that are very vocal centric that I don't think you could replace those guys ever and call it Deftones.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a few bands that like again, like I don't know. It's a weird opinion to have because like you don't want to call people replaceable because it's like kind of shitty. But like there are just certainly bands that are this is very much the sum of these parts. And like if any like the perfect example always in my mind was Nevermore. Like Nevermore in my mind is like one of the greatest metal bands to ever do it. And you just it was those dudes. Like they occasionally had a second guitarist here and there. But like what would how ridiculous would Nevermore be if they were like, hey, we're coming back and it's not Worldane. And now that I said that, watch fucking next week they're gonna be like Nevermore reunion. I'm like, God damn it. Because then I have to get out there and be like, listen, all right, I know I talked shit about that last week. I'm still gonna go though. So like but yeah, it is tough. Deftones more so. Because yeah, no Chino, like that's gonna get like his voice and vocal style is so specific.
Yeah.
Because it's one of those things that, like, if you replace Chino with a guy that sounds like Chino, now you just got a guy that sounds like Chino. So I don't know. It is really strange. But same thing with Stephen Carpenter too, though. I mean, that guy, like his mind for riffs is just like a separate game.
And to make this thing full circle, Dillinger Escape Plan. I love Calculating Infinity, and I never really got into Greg's voice, like post, I can't even think of the original singer's name, but that's one band that
Dimitri.
Dimitri. They changed singers, and I'm like, I'm a Dimitri guy. I liked Calculating Infinity, and even what was it, In Transmission, maybe, or something like that. What was the second?
There was Calculating Infinity, and there was oh my god, I can't think of it now. There was Calculating Infinity. There was the self-titled EP that like is nowhere anymore. There's Under the Running Board. Oh my god, now I look like an ass. There was the Mike Patton EP though between, and that was really
that
cool.
was good. Designs for Automation is what I'm thinking of.
The
Looking Glass Self, Progression Through Learning, all that stuff.
It just like the Dimitri stuff for Dillinger is just fucking savage, man. Like that is just pure unadulterated, just pissed offness, and that shit is just so good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They had a career with Greg, and a lot of people really like Greg, and a lot like it. Just you're always gonna have the camps, of the people that log on to like fucking Metal Archives, and every single post Jesper Stromblad, In Flames record is just gonna get 0 from those people. Like no Jesper, no In Flames. So
right.
There's always gonna be those contingents of people that are just that person quit, and this band is just officially dead to them. Which like. Sure, I don't know. I mean, that's fandom, right? Like, if everyone would just kind of just had a whatever opinion about everything, then the world would be a pretty damn boring place.
Yeah, true. I think what we've come to in this whole thing is I think when Linkin Park is at the festival, you're gonna have a good time hearing those Hybrid Theory songs and Meteor songs, and they're gonna sound fine, and you're gonna have a good time. Especially if you're a fan. If you're not a fan, you'll end up enjoying it, I think, either way.
It's one of those things that, like, listen, am I going to go run out and see Linkin Park at whatever stadium? Probably not. But alternatively, if I'm at a festival and Linkin Park's headlining and, like, I'm there for that day, I'm absolutely going to go watch Linkin Park. Like, no question. So, yeah, I mean, it's also kind of one of those things you have to take into account. Like, it's the internet. Everyone's gonna talk shit and be like, "This sucks. I'm never gonna go." Blah, blah, blah. Like, you're gonna see it at some point. You're gonna crack a smile. You're gonna have fun with your friends. Just enjoy it. It's fine.
Well, I mean, the Pantera shows I've seen, everyone hates it online. Everybody's
Mhm.
having a blast at the show. It's like the tale of two worlds.
Dude, that should be the slogan for all of metal, honestly. Is just everybody hates us on the internet, and then you go and like I mean, like even the metal injection comments, right? Like so many people are like super negative about shit. And then you meet people in person, they're like, no, it's really cool, man. Like, good job. Like, this is a really cool website. And you're just like, where the fuck is everybody that hates me? You know, like, what? So yeah, it's super easy to log onto your phone and talk copious amounts of shit about a band or whatever. But you know, you're gonna go see it. Zach Wild's gonna play the friggin' Flood solo. You're gonna cry. It's gonna be a good time. All right.
It is going to be a good time, and this has been a good time, man. Well, I guess as we wrap up here, man, what's the best way for people to follow you and your daily videos, man? I'm enjoying those.
Sure. Oh, thank you. I am the Greg Kennelty, spelled like you see on the screen right there, which I can't point at. On Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. I think are the only ones I'm using right now, and Blue Sky, because that's a thing now apparently, and everybody's having fun with it, and so am I. So the algorithm is pretty good over there. Check out Blue Sky. This is an advertisement for Blue Sky. Blue Sky, pay me.
Right. Use code Kennelty.
Use code Talk to Me Podcast for 20% off.
That's too funny, man. Well, I appreciate your time tonight, and thanks for bringing me on to Metal Injection to write some articles here and there. I've had fun. I
Absolutely.
actually, honestly, had a blast. Writing the Corn stuff, and obviously, Head from Corn, commenting on it and sharing it in his stories, man. That's a wild day, man. When you
Totally
tell
wild.
15-year-old me that was going to happen 30 years later, I would have just kill me now kind of deal.
Right. The guy from Korn acknowledged me, like, done. That's it. I'm done. I don't even care anymore.
The guy from Korn acknowledged me, acknowledging him.
Yep. Good? Yeah, good. You know what? I'll take it.
All right, man. We'll take care and we'll do this again soon, man.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. Have a good one.